What's up guys, this is ScherBR talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're gonna make a full review for the Romancing Festival Grey banner. That's essentially the second part of the Minstrel Song celebrations. We have Aisha, support damage dealer for rapiers, Hawke, a damage dealer for roll with slash in blunt with stacking buffs, Barbar, a very good support for both offensive and defensive strategies, and Grey, a farmer cross boss specialist with slash and cold damage. So let's start with Grey. He gives the name to the banner. Well, he got a buff to his STR, 117%, has 86 endurance, 88 will, 100% agility, and 79 dexterity. So you can see that all of these status are good, and he can take damage while being fast enough for farming setups as well. So kind of a mixed bag, but does not suffer from bad status distribution. The first passive is called G-Sword Guidance Tree. All allies will receive a 15% increase in damage if they are equipped with great swords. So yeah, on remembrance it's going to give 15% damage increase to everyone in the squad. Is that really important? Well, many characters reach like 160% or more because of their weapons plus their passives. It helps, but it's not game changing. Then the second one is called Conviction. It's just like Mentork passive, gets 4 VP per turn and starts the fight with 12. It's nice because it allows you to use 8 VP skills 2 times in a row, for example. Then the last one, High Protect Tension, increasing his damage by 20% and damage taken will be reduced by 30. So he only has 45% damage passives, but he has something going for long fights. But you know what he missed? An STR buff or bigger damage passives for farming. So because he's mixed, he is not the best on each field, but can work. Now for skills we have Moonslash Plus. This is a full AoE attack that was launched with the welfare version of Novel. C power, 15 mod, 4 VP cost. He can use this as much as he wants. That's actually pretty okay, but well, damage is low, it's not used so much for farming, and I don't see many situations where weak AoE attacks matter that much. Then we have Elegant Petals. This is the same attack that we saw in the past with Soji and Jen. So, well, it's an okay attack. He has 33 mods, some other AoE attacks has only 28. And he can open with this attack and then just keep using Moon Slash. But he does not have the cold element in that Moon Slash attack, so he's more of a slash farm and then slash in cold with this setup. Then the last attack is called EI Frost Slash, 12 VP as well, and has a fast roll attack with slash and cold with triple S damage. It's kind of mid-range for triple S, it's very nice. Will be capable of soloing many setups, but I have to say that because of his damage passives, he may fail sometimes, whereas characters like Lunar New Year, Leonard, and Sparrow will not. But most of the time it can solo. And then he enters a charge stance and takes 2 turns to unleash a new skill called Elegant Ice Flower. It's fast again, still slash and cold, but this time it's a 4S attack, so yeah, pretty strong, and it's even mid-range of 4S, pretty close to the strongest attacks that are only 1 hit. But one thing to say here is that, well, he can actually get back to using the same charge attack again, because he gets 4 VP per turn, right? So as soon as he uses the Elegant Ice Flower, the next turn he can just use EI Frost Slash again. So his damage potential comes from the raw power of the skill. So if you have offensive support like STR buffs in your party, then Grey will scale pretty well. But he kind of needs help to increase his damage potential. And this setup here is pretty similar to what you get with someone called Cordelia. In her Perfector style, we had a very similar design, but this time it was all about single target. She used it all in Trust, a triple S attack, and then she would use Triple Pierce, an attack that was considered 4S as well. So instead of single target, he's going for roll and even double elements. It's an evolution of this mechanic. We have other characters that have charge mechanics, but Grey is strange in the way that roll is not as effective like AoE, for example. We have Krienhild, and she will do very big damage, but the skill itself has lower power because it's full AoE, with Light of Blue parts and then eventually Thunderbolt. her follow-up is only lightning. Kinda restricts her a little, but, well, she has higher damage potential because of her damage passives. But Gray, since we are having plenty of events with enemies aligned in a row, will work just fine. He can also do column damage if you inherit a Waterfall Blade Plus after amplifying it from his S style. He can use this 3 times in a row as well. He is not so strong on doing this when compared to someone like SaGa, that is still the champion, because he has a lot of damage passives. But then, one thing to consider is that Gray also clashes a little with Empress, actually a lot. Christmas Empress has this skill called Imperial Swing. That's double S power. Well, it's not triple S, right? But then she grants attack and defense boost. That is for long fights if you want to use her for that. Well, no one uses. But still, she can solo some stages with Imperial Swing. It's Slash and Sun, and she can use this again by turn 3. This is more than enough most of the time. Gray will do a little extra damage, but the difference is not that big. You should know that. At least for the first hit. In the second hit, Gray will totally outclass Final Impress damage. But if you have this version of Final Impress, you probably have enough for Slash. And then it's all about the cold part. And he competes with Cordelia again, but this time it's the second Platinum style. This one has this attack called Crystal Strike. It's triple S with 59 mod. It's inferior, has a little less power. It's Pierce in cold, and she even has the same passive as you can see here, Conviction, but she also gives attack and defense boosts, and on odd turns she gets more damage, and well, she will just do very good damage on turn 1 and then on turn 3 as well. Triple S power for the cold part. She can take his role when farming just fine. You can use both as well, but it's just that, well, she can use Crystal Strike 2 times a row as well, so there's not much to gain by adding Gray besides just a little extra damage. And this is kind of the feeling that you will have in this banner. Characters that are not exactly an evolution of what you see, besides bigger damage. And for other inheritances, we have Yaksha Flash, a 3 to 5 hit attack with 9 BP cost. That is not bad per se, but now we have Albert with left fork, and he deals much more damage than Gray. There's also Will Swing that can be amplified to Will Swing Plus for a very big attack, but can only use this on turn 2. If you have his first Welfare style, there's also now Empty Blade Plus, 5 EP for S power with 39, but random attack. It's not that good, you should be just using his charge mechanic or Waterfall Blade Plus like I said. But in the end, Gray is not that powerful as he seems without support from external sources, or bossing at least. But he works pretty well as a leader for Greatsword if you're having difficulty there. He works for all Remembrance battles. It's just that I am not having difficulty there. Well, in the end, Gray is not a bad character, but it's also nothing really special. We have seen everything he offers before, with lower power or with similar power, and to be honest, he's all about either using his fast cycle off-row attacks or his Waterfall Blade Plus. So if you missed the characters I mentioned, he will work well for you, and if you are having difficulty with the Greatsword Remembrance fights, he's also going to help. He has a setup that will work for all boss fights. But because he does not offer anything really unique, I have to say that he is actually pretty skippable and has no future styles, so here is everything that you will have with this character. He's gonna receive a standard double S grade in our tier list. And the next character is Hawke, an axe wielder, and we really need good axe wielders. The funny thing about Hawke is that he shares the same STR, endurance, agility, and will as Gray. Yes, as you can see when comparing both status, but he lacks high protect tension, so he's going to take more damage than Gray, but he was built to do more damage than to sustain. He's a better farmer. Well, we'll talk about that. First passive is called Active Treatment 2 STR. On the start of a turn, he will recover very small HP, that should be around 180s, and will also buff his STR by 15%. That's good, we like STR buffs in the current meta. Then Strengthen and Attack increases his damage by 15% and starts the fight with 12 BP. And fired up, 7 gives him 40% damage increase, so he has 55% damage increase, and will heal a little on start of turn and buff his SDR before he attacks, so he will benefit for farming. Skill number 1 is called Slashing Blow. 3BP, roll attack with slashing blunt damage. Well, the problem with Hawke is what you already see, slashing blunt specialist. And to be honest, we do have plenty of damage dealers for those two elements. Gray has cold, it's a little more unique. Skill number 2 is called Militant Slash. It's a 6BP fast attack that will hit all enemies with C power. This part's already good, right? And it was added in global. Defensive counter stance. When he gets directly attacked, he's gonna reduce damage by 35% and counter with Savage Slash. This is a 6BP skill that hits for D power only and will also buff all surviving allies STR by 25% on max level. So, well, I have to say that this type of counter strategy is not as good as it seems, because when we want to counter, we actually bring the counter unit to kill the enemies. Hawke here is a little different. He actually wants to counter to make someone else stronger, or even himself, but since the skill itself is only the power, it will take so much time for it to do enough damage to actually matter. So I prefer to bring just Urpina, and she would just kill the enemies by countering, and it's an evasion stance instead of a defensive counter stance. But if there are many enemies attacking that are direct, yes, Hawke will help, but it's not game changing. The other problem comes with this skill being fast, so, well, you have to use Rising Phoenix Axe or Tortoise Formation instead of Tiger's Den, or else your Hawke will be unprotected. He has no damage reduction passives, that means that he's gonna take plenty of damage too. But if you can restart the fight many times, still Hawke actually counters the minions from a Remembrance fight, for example, then maybe he will buff the party so much that you can clear the fight faster and be able to beat a high stage. Then the last skill is called Great Axe Flash. For 12 BP you have a roll attack with slash and blunt damage, D power 10 mod, not so strong, really weak actually, but then he will grant himself morale up, increasing his damage by 40%, lasts for 5 turns, and then Dangerous Spin will be activated. This is a double S power attack that also hits for roll, and it's also slash and blunt, and will also use the same skill rank as Great Axe Flash. So let's talk about this a few. We have a similar setup with Dentarg. He got a similar setup, very powerful one as well. As you can see, the same thing. Opens with D power 10 mod, activates morale up very large for 5 turns, and use a follow-up attack with double S power. It's just different elements, and they are also pretty similar, but at least Dentarg has high protect tension. So it's inferior in my opinion because Dentarg has fire element, and this is a little more unique, and Pierce is also not so competitive as Slash and Blunt is. So Hawke matters more because he's an axe wielder, so you can bring him for axe remembrance and he's gonna do plenty of damage. After using Great Axe Flash, you will just keep using Slashing Blow or just use some normal attacks till you get to Great Axe Flash. The best approach is to just use normal attacks and then use Great Axe Flash right after you accumulated enough BP. And because he self-buffs STR, even his normal attack's gonna do good enough damage. So this is his gameplay. There's nothing else besides just using this skill. And, well, not all Remembrance battles will take benefit of roll. Only Death Master makes real sense. In the next one, the enemies will not be aligned, so you will be using this as a single target attack. Even as a single target attack, it's good enough because it's comparable to an opener with 4S attack, and then he buffs this morale up to do more damage with the following attack. So, not bad, but also something we've seen before. Now, you know what's bad about Hawke? All of his inheritances are bad. There's nothing here that will make him better or make him use a different cycle. So, you have the innate skills and that's it. You have the roll cycle and the counter skill. A very, very limited character that also does not have any future style. We receive a standard grade because, well, he's still strong, but it's someone that is easy to skip unless you really need extra power for X, but you can always wait for the next one that can be much better than Hawke. The next character is Aisha, and she's now a Hyper user instead of X user. She can also use Earth Element spells, so you can craft a weapon with Earth Element to use all her skills. She has a higher STR now when compared to JP because you can inherit her X skills and they will rely on STR to do damage. She has a very low endurance, she's a little fragile. Her will is at least 81, not that bad. The expertise is 108% because she needs that for rapier skills, and she has 102% intelligence for earth spells that will also need agility for accuracy. First passive is called Mother's Nisa. Damage increases by 20%, and on the end of odd turns, that is 1, 3, 5 and beyond, she will recover 1 BP. But also on the end of even turns, she will recover HP by around 800. It's good because in Remembrance she will be pretty defensive, and she will not be needed to be healed as much as many other characters there. Then we have Offensive Spirit 1. Weak attack damage increases by 20%. On Remembrance, she will always be landing weak attacks. And then also recovers 1 BP on the end of all turns. So she gets 9 BP over the course of 2 turns. This is important because of her skill cycles. The last one is High Protect Tension, decreases damage by 30% and will increase damage potential by 20. As for skills, the first one is called a Galloping Thrust. For 3BP, you have a full AoE attack with Pierce and Slash damage, E-Power, Pierce and Slash. And this will land between 1 to 2 hits, 50% chance of each one. So if you just land 1 hit, it's okay because most AoE attacks cost 3 BP, save for Anya that has a free one. And if you land 2 hits, this is gonna be equal to 8 power for 3 BP AoE. That's amazing, but you are playing with RNG here. The second skill is called Earth Thrust. For 6 BP, you have a single target attack with Pierce and Slash, lands 8 power, 29 mod, and will grant Morale Down Medium for 2 turns if the attack lands. Morale Down Medium decreases damage on the source by 25%, and it's a way to mitigate damage when a boss will just cleanse debuffs or try to buff break your buffs. So it's nice because Morale Down Medium is pretty rare. We only have one other character that can do that, and it's Doll, and she has the Dusk Wrecking that grants Morale Down Medium for 2 turns, but it's an AoE attack and she cannot keep this constant. So she either has to skip 1 turn or apply Morale Down Small with Spread Shot in some turns. So Aisha only uses 6 for Earth Thrust. She can actually use Galloping Thrust on turn 2, and then on turn 3 she uses Earth Thrust again. But she needs to be very fast in order to apply the Morale Down Medium before the enemy attack in order for it to work as intended. Then the third one is called Earth Beating. 8 BP, full AoE. This one is an Earth spell, so it will use your intelligence and agility, and you will need a Earth Rapier. And when the attack lands, there is a chance to buff agility by 20%. Well, the chance is pretty high because she does have good intelligence, and will also have a medium chance to apply stun. But it's 8 BP, right? But she can use this every 2 turns, not that bad. But how many times do we need to do agility debuff and stun? It makes sense because when you want to stun, you want to debuff the agility from the enemy because you need to stun before the enemy attacks. But the cost is high, that means that she will need help from someone else. And we do have another character that do the same. And who is that character? Well, it's Jamil from the Albert's banner. He has this main involing attack where he debuffs agility and stuns. So you can use them together for this special effect, but well, you don't really need this type of strategy all that much in the game, more for tower or something else. Now, for inheritance, she can use some access skills, but I have to say that she was not exactly made for that. In the future, the yo-yo attack will become double hit and will buff STR with each hit. This is actually pretty nice. And from her first Platinum style, we have Petra Delta that you can amplify into Petra Delta Plus. She becomes a very nice Petrify specialist because, remember, her intelligence is actually pretty nice. And Skydrive, the same attack that the new Sith has access to, is Slash and Blunt, and will buff all surviving allies OD Gauge. If you have someone with special effects on Overdrive, this actually helps a lot. So this is her kit. If you want to use her, it will be for boss fights. She's not a farming specialist. If you want to bring her for remembrance, she's actually very good. You will be casting morale down medium to decrease damage, and damage on remembrance can be pretty high. And she does not need to be healed. She heals herself with her passive. So it's useful there. But outside remembrance, it will be kind of hard to use her in hard challenges if you already have the meta characters, because Global Action Press gives a Scrum Guard, decreasing damage by 20, and she has another attack from the Christmas style that will just add a 25% damage reduction. It's much higher than just applying 25 morale down. But the good thing about morale down is that it's the only effect applied in the enemy. When you are bringing too many defensive support skills in your party, they don't have the real value anymore because they stack multiplicatively and not additively. So that's why it's not that bad, but still kind of competes with some other very nice supports. We already have also Time that gives 25% damage reduction with Guard Up Medium, and he also offers other stuff. So there's that. One interesting thing about Aisha is that you can use Earth Trust with her X versions, but then the problem is the endurance. This version has only 32, and this other Platinum has only 41. She's gonna take plenty of damage. At least this version can heal. So if you're having extreme difficulty on Axe Remembrance and you are thinking about bringing this skill, it could work, but I don't know if she's gonna survive to make use of the skill itself. So there's this big problem here. Aisha has no other future style because we haven't seen any in JP so far, so she is what you see. Well, Aisha is a more focused style when compared to Grey, for example. She can make a difference on Remembrance, not as big as you think for hard challenges, but one thing to consider is that we'll get a next version of Joe that can apply Morale Down Medium for AoE, and she can keep using that skill all the time. So Joe is a character with more utility than Aisha, so for hard challenges she can be easily outclassed, but for Rapier Remembrance, if you're having difficulty, especially if you miss it out on this version of Jamil, because he has Scrum Guard, and this decreases damage by 20%, or if you want to have a easier time, bring Scrum Guard and the Morale Down effect. This will make the fight much easier. But I didn't need Aisha to clear Remembrance, so there's that. Still, she's gonna receive also a standard grade. She makes more difference than Grey and Hawke in most accounts, but still is someone easy to skip. The last character is Barbar, and she's an hybrid of sorts. She can use shadow spells, but equips spears, so she wanted everything and suffers from that. At least endurance and will are pretty good, and she is more for boss fights anyway. Her dexterity is kinda bad, she may miss skills if she actually attacks, but she does not need to attack, and she will also probably miss some of her spells if she wants to attack, but again, she does not need to attack. First passive is called Ardent Spirit. On the start of a turn, she has a 37% chance to give a 20% damage increase to everyone in the party. Well, this is not important, and I much preferred something like 10% all times. The second one is called Active Treatment 2 Will. On the start of a turn, she will heal for around 180 and will buff her own will by 15%. Well, after it stacks 4 times, this will add 37.5 more will after turn 4 onwards. So it makes her essentially a character with 135% will at that point, and she will probably protect herself from ailments, debuffs, and swords, and receive much less damage from magical attacks. The third passive is Conviction, yet again. In this banner we saw a lot, and she has 4 BP per turn and starts the fight with 12. This will allow her to inherit any skill from her past styles. Skill number 1 is called Warn Up. It's a 0 BP support skill that recovers 4 BP. We'll talk more about that in a few. The second is called Scattered Shadow, a 6 BP full AoE attack, C power, pierce, and shadow. Ignore this skill, this is only here for farming so that Barbar has something to do. Then the last skill is called Allegra's Fascination. For 12 VP, you have a support fast that will grant 3 different effects. Defense boost medium, decreasing damage by 25%. Guard up medium, decreasing damage by 25% again. And then she also buffs all surviving allies' status ailment resistance by a large effect. Well, first of all, defense boost and guard up stack. Guard up cannot stack with another guard up, but defense boost can stack with as many defense boosts you have. But they stack additively, not multiplicatively. So, on average, you have 44% damage reduction. But if you bring more support with defense boost or other defensive effects, you get less value with diminishing reruns. But you have to compare Barbar to Global X Empress, the closest comparison, because she has Scrum Guard, decreased damage by 20% if everyone is alive, and she can inherit from the Christmas style, Christmas Moon, decreasing damage by another 25. Pretty close to 25 plus 25, the difference will be pretty small, around 4%, but, well, the biggest difference between both is that Barbar does not need everyone to be alive, so if someone dies, everyone still has protection. In the case of Global X Empress, if someone dies, you lose Scrum Guard, and everyone else will take more damage. This can make things go south. But there's a good thing about Final Empress. She has Indomitable. If she gets killed once, she revives. She's more defensive because she also has 25% damage reduction besides Scrum Guard. So, herself will receive... So she will receive less damage than Barbar for physical, but for magical, since Barbar buffs her will many times and even heal a little, she may get close to Final Empress when facing magical damage. When facing physical, Empress will win. This is the situation. But Empress still has more stuff about her. She can use the Imperial Shield with 9 BP. Let's say that you're getting close to a moment where you know a boss will nuke, you can just use the Imperial Shield and negate all damage. The bad thing, it takes 3 turns to charge this again, but, well, you can use this instead of the Christmas Moon right close to the end of the fight. And then, let's say the next turn you use Overdrive and kill the boss. That can save you sometimes. While Barbar will do something different. Actually, after buffing so many times with Allegra's Fascination during the course of the fight, she can choose to do something else, and that is to inherit Flamenco Muse. This buffs all surviving allies morale up by 50%, increasing their damage. It's fast, that means that if you use this on Overdrive, she will increase the damage potential of everyone and maybe allow you to kill a boss with a little extra damage. Now the most important thing is to say that Barbar can keep any of the 2 dances 100% of the time, because, remember, she starts with 12, nice. Allegra's Fascination costs 12. And then the next turn she uses Warn Up. Okay, Warn Up is 4. She gets 4 per turn, that means 12 every 2 turns. So she can go for defensive support, or she can go for offensive support. But the offensive support part is only for the end of the fight, in my opinion, because survivability is important in this game, much better than just increasing a little damage for your party. In Flamenco Muse, increasing 50% does not translate in real 50% increase, because characters have around 150 or 160 already with their weapons. This will translate into a 25% more damage. But if Leon is your only damage dealer, this can be good enough to help you kill the boss in that right moment where the next turn will be your end. One other inheritance that could make sense comes from her Global X style. Dark Wash Plus is a 10 BP skill that deals triple S damage and buff breaks the target, and if a boss buffs some status each turn, it can be dangerous. But the problem here is that we have very bad agility and intelligence. She needs to land the attack in order to apply the buff break, so she will be failing in most content, whereas the other version has higher intelligence, unless you are buffing her intelligence and agility or both. This would not make much sense. So there is something interesting about Barbar for the Christmas Empress, for example, for that dedicated strategy to reduce damage. But if you already have that Empress, I have to say that you don't really need Barbar. But I can also say that they stack. Remember that Scrum Guard will stack with any other defensive passive, and Empress will also stack her shield with Barbar, because the shield is defense boost, and defense boost is stacked with other defense boosts. So pretty interesting. I don't know how many times we will be capable of using this type of strategy of using both Barbar and Empress together, but this allows some different setups, like instead of using Tiger's Den that relies on attacking after the enemy, you can now use Rising Phoenix X, for example, or Tortoise, and use both together to decrease damage so that you don't need the Tiger's Den effect that reduces damage. It's just to add more utility and strategies for the long run. So Barbar is the best character of the meta in my opinion, and she receives a triple asset rate, but not everyone really needs Barbar if they already have Global X and Press. Just one extra info, JP has a future version of Untine, the second next version even, that has a similar setup. She applies defense boost and guard up. Defense boost on JP is 20%, guard up is 12%, but maybe they will change this for global to keep her closer to Barbar, but she would not be capable of using this every 2 turns as it is, unless they change. Another thing is that we don't really need more support for Spear Remembrance. Now back to the banner image, is this banner worth summoning for? In my opinion, no. Besides those people that don't have the full build of Final Empress, for those people, Barbar will work pretty well. I think she will add a lot even if you need to pity her, but that is only if you have plenty of gens. Aisha will still help some people with difficulty with Raid Pierce or Remembrance, but if you don't have difficulty, you can skip her and move towards the future. Aisha does not have any Planet Future JP style. Hawke and Grey are damage dealers that are not that special, so I'll be giving this banner a Silver Minus award. It was pretty close for a Bronze, but since Barbar is a triple S style, it's hard to say this banner is that bad. So 4 characters as well means that you have a better chance of getting a featured style, contrary to banners with only 3 styles, but many banners with only 3 styles offer more than this. So if you don't have enough gens, just wait to the future announcements as well. I will be skipping this banner for now and wait for a rerun of Barbar. But that is my opinion. What is yours? Place it here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you still haven't. If you want to support the channel, there are links in the description. Hope to see you soon in the next one. Bye.